What's cooking in my heart? What are people tasting from my life? Is it the fruit of the Spirit bubbling up, or is it the stew of my flesh boiling over? In Luke 6:45, Yeshua says, "From the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks." Whatever's overflowing from my lips, whatever's coming out of my mouth, is the result of what's cooking in my heart. Words matter. My words matter. And we need to understand this very clearly. It's not just the words we say. More important than the words I say are the words I believe in my heart. The words I say are simply the overflow of what's brewing, what's stewing in my heart. When words of anger and destruction bubble out of my lips, it's not out of nowhere. There's a compartment, at the very least, within my heart where these words have been simmering and stewing. The pressure of different moments squeezes it out of us, and we say, well, that's not my character. Normally I wouldn't say that. Perhaps not. But if I'm thinking it, if I'm meditating on it, if I'm stuffing it down, walking away from the conflict, but still murmuring within words of anger or hatred or division or self-righteousness or self-justification and criticism under my breath and in my heart, and you can be assured that if the heat on the pot gets turned up high enough, those ingredients will spill over. They may spill over in an explosion of anger and hurtful words. They may seep out through a crack of passive-aggressive criticism that's intended to crush behind a smile. But make no mistake, they reveal what's going on somewhere inside of me. See, I can try and justify myself when something other than the fruit of the Spirit pours out of my mouth. And I don't know about you, but I'm good at it. I say things like, I'm under a lot of stress, or I'm having a bad day, or I don't feel well. Do you know what she did? She intentionally sought to bait me. And the Holy Spirit may point out, hey, but you allowed yourself to be baited. What's going on in your heart? I have to take that to the Lord. Let the Lord speak to me. Sometimes I'll start my prayer with self-justification. Lord, you see what she did. You see what that person did. But the Lord wants to transform me into someone who, when fully formed, into who he always intended me to be, looks more like him. What would Yeshua have done in that moment? I mean, he wouldn't have responded that way. Shoot, he wouldn't have even flared his nostrils because he's slow to anger. He's slow to flare his nostrils. And it brings me back to the questions. It brings us back to the questions. What's cooking inside of me? What ingredients are in this pot? What are the thoughts that I'm meditating on when I'm alone and with myself and the Lord? Am I replaying old arguments? In my heart, am I centering on my heart's attention on the speck in the eye of my opponent, be it that condescending person on the other side of the counter, or a coworker, or a critic, or my spouse? When I lay on my bed or I drive in my car with the radio off, am I replaying old conversations about old wounds and old offenses and old recordings in my mind? Am I meditating on those things, spicing up what's cooking in my heart with a dash of anger and a pinch of bitterness and 2 cups of resentment and retaliation in my heart? On my worst days, much less days that are just normal and fine, what ingredients are cooking in this pot? What's cooking in my heart? What's overflowing, bubbling up, or boiling over? If what I'm serving tastes different than what I know you, Lord, intended for me to serve, then rather than try to convince everybody that I used all the ingredients, convincing myself that I didn't add anything wrong into any of this, I should look back and ask the Lord to search the recipe, to search my heart, to show me what's going on inside of it. Is pride brewing? Have I forgotten God's kindness toward me? Have I forgotten the condition in which he found me? Is selfishness ruling? Is rebellion rising up in me? Am I unwilling to submit to God's way, to his order of things? Is fear and anxiety or a lack of trust, is that ruling me? Is exhaustion, a lack of rest, ruling me because I don't trust him and I know I have to do it in my own strength? Is that ruling me? Is it self-pity that's ruling me? What am I cooking with? Am I cooking with his word or with my own understanding? What are the thoughts I'm meditating upon? Philippians 4:8 says, whatever's true, whatever's noble, whatever's right, whatever's pure, whatever's lovely, whatever is admirable, if there's anything or excellent or praiseworthy, think on these things. What's cooking in our hearts?